2026 midterm elections are already taking shape, and the stakes, they could not be higher. Republicans face a growing wave of retirements, leaving several vulnerable seats up for grabs, and newly drawn congressional maps in several key states could shift the balance of power district by district. As for President Trump's agenda, control of Congress could ultimately determine how his final years in office play out. Joining me now, CNN senior media analyst Sarah Fisher, Republican strategist Malik Abdul, and Democratic strategist Megan Hayes. Thank you all once again for being here. Let's first talk about the GOP retirements. Megan, what's behind them in your estimation, and how much will this help Democrats?
I think that a lot of the Republicans are sort of tired of having to answer to Donald Trump, and then if they don't follow his agenda, they threaten with a primary. You saw that with Marjorie Taylor Greene and some other folks who are just like, we're throwing their hands up, we're done here. I do think it will help Democrats in general elections, but Democrats are going to have some tough primaries too in a lot of these places. So I do think it's not a foregone conclusion that a Democrat will win. Some of these seats are safe Republican seats, but it does open up the map and it does expand the map. I think we saw the ability to expand the map for Democrats in the Tennessee race, the special election that just happened a couple months ago. So it is an exciting time for Democrats to understand that they can expand the map and to be able to take more control, but it is going to be a tough fight in the midterms.
And speaking of tough fights, 2025 saw a lot of abnormal redistricting efforts because they were outside of the census window. Sarah, which states' new maps matter the most, and how much could redistricting decide control of Congress?
It might have a small impact. I actually think policy issues are going to have a much bigger impact on the fate of Congress, including, we had talked about earlier, health care is going to be a huge issue on the ballot. When it comes to redistricting, I mean, the big states to follow, obviously, are the big fight that happened in 2025 over Texas. Obviously, that has traditionally been a red state with some blue hotspots. And so ensuring that they can get more seats there is what Republicans were hoping would push them over. Obviously, we had seen a big fight in Indiana over redistricting. I think ultimately, though, the redistricting is not what's going to win this over for Democrats. Again, it's going to be their policy push specifically around affordability and health care that's going to win them the House if they can take it back.
And also, there's Trump's agenda to talk about, Malik. What happens to it if Republicans lose the House or the Senate?
Well, it's dead. And I think that, historically, Republicans are, we're supposed to actually lose one of the seats, one of the houses. I do believe that there is a better chance that we would lose the House than the Senate. But I would also remind people, remember back in 2022 with the red wave that actually was more of a trickle. I think that we should actually use that as an example of just something to actually watch, because while I think that Democrats do have a better chance of winning the House now, I'm not convinced that it's going to be this, this broad sweeping agenda against Donald Trump. I'm not sure that that's what's going to happen, even though, like I say, I do believe that the Democrats, or at least the Democrats, should take the House. By what margin? I think that's the thing that I'm actually watching, because it will impact the rest of Donald Trump's agenda, which is why he tried to get so much in 2025, and he's going to continue to do that up until November of this year.
And Sarah, kind of to what Malik is talking about here of just how wide the margins may be, 2026, will it be a referendum or a power struggle?
I think it will be. If you take a look back to Donald Trump's first administration, his first midterm election in 2018, sort of proved that power struggle was very real. Democrats swept the House, and it put Donald Trump in a position where he stopped trying to really litigate through Congress and started to exert more executive power throughout his first term, something we've seen in his second term. I think for this next upcoming midterm, it's likely that Republicans can maintain the Senate, but I think it's a very real chance, because of the slim majority in the House, that the Democrats can take the House. Now, the question becomes, does it even matter? Congress right now is not getting anything passed, despite the fact that it is controlled by the same party and the same party in the White House. So I do think Democrats win it. Whether or not that means any legislative action is taken, who knows?
And Megan, I do want to ask you, if the Democrats do take over the House, what can we expect the Democrats to bring forward in terms of checks and balances to the Trump presidency?
Look, I think there'll be a lot of oversight hearings on a lot of the things that Trump pushed forward in some of his executive actions and some of his different things with the National Guard and Venezuela and some of these things. So I think there'll be a lot of oversight hearings. I also think that they will try to really push this issue of affordability. I think that's where the 28 campaign comes in. I know we don't want to go that far into a presidential cycle, but I think that if Democrats don't get a handle on affordability, if they do take control of the House, they will not win the presidency. And I think that is the ultimate goal here, is to continue to be in power. So people have to understand that there needs to be solutions for affordability. But one thing in the midterms in 26 that I think that we need to not ignore here are all the governor's races. There's 36 governor's races that are up in 26 as well. And we've seen how important governor's races are and how important state leadership is in every single aspect of Donald Trump's agenda. So I don't want to ignore those races because they are just as important as the House.
You make a great point there with the governor's races, and maybe you already answered what my next question is going to be. So I'll ask Malik first. What races are you going to be focusing on this year?
Well, I'll say this. I'm not going to be focused on a particular race. What I'm really going to be looking for is what happens with Donald Trump's legacy. He was in office, got a lot of pushback. People didn't think that he would win. What happens this year with the coalition that Donald Trump built over the years? What happens to that? I think that's going to be the big thing that I'm going to be looking for in November. Not a particular race, but it is the coalition. What happens to it in November?
And I want to follow up on that a little bit, because we are starting to see a little bit of fractures within the MAGA movement in and of itself, specifically Marjorie Taylor Greene in the America First versus the foreign policy agendas. Malik, do you believe that will play a role in the midterms?
See, this is why I don't get booked elsewhere, because I'm willing to tell the truth about it. It will absolutely matter. It's mattering now. And you have many Republicans. I understand we're not supposed to say that there is a fracture in our, on our side, but it's absolutely true. And anybody denying that fracture exists, they're going to be a problem for the party. That's going to be a problem for the party for sure.
And Megan, from your perspective, from the Democrat side, what races are you looking for the most?
I agree with Malik that looking sort of at the coalition and these independent voters of where they're going, I think is extremely important. But there are some really important Senate races. I think Michigan is a really important Senate race, not only for the primaries for Democrats, but for the general. I think because it is a battleground state, that's going to impact the 28 cycle as well. So there's some important races out there in these battleground states. But I also don't sleep on these down ballot races either. Some of these things are extremely important. These Supreme Courts and these different commissions are extremely important, as we've seen in the last year.
All right. We will see what happens in the new year. Sarah Fisher, Malik Abdul, Megan Hayes, appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Coming up, birthright citizenship should be decided by the Supreme Court in the new year. We look at that and other cases on the docket in 26. Plus, the showdown in Washington over AI. Can lawmakers loosen the rules and still keep kids safe? And you